He may not show it, he may not say a word, but when you hug him, really hug him, something shifts inside. It's not just about physical touch. It's about what that moment says to a man who spent his whole life being told to stay strong, stay silent, stay guarded. And yet in that quiet embrace, you reach a part of him no one else sees. Want to know what he actually feels in that moment? Let's go there. When a man is hugged by someone he cares about or trusts, something subtle but powerful happens beneath the surface. He may not express it outwardly or even consciously process it, but in that moment he feels a wave of emotional safety wash over him. It's not just about the physical contact, it's about the message behind it. That embrace says, "You're not alone." It tells him, without any need for words, that he can exhale, even if just for a second, and stop pretending like everything is fine. It gives him permission to drop the armor he wears every day, the same armor that the world expects him to carry with pride. In that brief moment, the pressure to be strong, to be stoic, to have it all together, fades. He feels grounded. Most men don't walk around thinking, "I wish someone would just hug me right now." They've been taught to dismiss those kinds of needs. But the moment it happens, especially in a way that feels genuine and safe, it touches a part of them they don't often let people see. It speaks to the little boy that still lives inside, the one who never stopped needing reassurance, the one who craves warmth and unconditional acceptance. That's the part of him that responds most deeply to the hug. It's like hitting pause on a world that never stops demanding, never stops expecting. For that one moment, he feels seen, held, and allowed to simply exist. Not as a provider, not as a protector, not as someone who has to prove his worth, but as a human being with feelings too. It's important to understand that emotional safety is not something men often talk about, but they feel it deeply. Many of them don't even realize how starved they are for it until they experience it. A hug has the potential to cut through all the noise. It bypasses the need for explanations or justifications. It doesn't ask for performance or answers. It just says, "I'm here. I see you. You're safe." That kind of message lands deeply because it's rare. In a world where men are often expected to be the emotional anchor for others, that moment of being held becomes a quiet revolution. It softens him. It allows him to lean into his own humanity without shame. He may not speak about it, he may even brush it off, but inside, he knows what it meant. He'll remember that moment. Because emotional safety is unforgettable. When he feels it, he doesn't just notice, it reshapes something inside him, even if he can't put it into words. Men are often raised in environments where emotional expression is quietly discouraged or outright shut down. From a young age, many boys are told to toughen up, stop crying, or be a man. Over time, those messages don't just shape how they behave, they shape how they connect. As they grow older, many men learn to hide their emotional hunger behind strength, humor, or silence. They don't stop feeling, they just stop showing. But that need for closeness, for softness, for warmth, it never goes away. It just hides under layers of self-protection, waiting for the rare moments when it feels safe enough to come out. That's why a hug can be such a powerful experience. It reaches the emotional core that so often goes untouched. When a man is hugged with genuine affection, it unlocks something he's likely been holding in for a long time. Maybe he won't admit it, maybe he'll laugh it off or act indifferent, but inside, something loosens. For just a moment, he doesn't have to be the strong one. He doesn't have to lead or fix or figure anything out. He gets to be held, and that's not just comforting, it's healing. It reminds him that his emotional needs are valid, that he doesn't have to go through everything alone, and that it's okay to let someone else be the safe space for once. Most men don't consciously crave a hug, but their body and soul do. They carry silent exhaustion, quiet fears, hidden disappointments, and rarely get the chance to release any of it. When someone offers physical closeness without expecting anything in return, it creates a moment of profound emotional permission. It says, "You can be human here," and that's something men rarely hear. It's not just about wanting to feel loved, it's about needing a break from being emotionally starved. The world sees their strength but overlooks their fragility. A real hug reminds them that they don't have to pretend all the time. Even the most emotionally reserved man, when hugged by someone he cares about, will feel that shift. It may not turn into tears or a long conversation, but it will register deep inside, because despite all the layers he's built to protect himself, there's still a part of him that desperately wants to feel connected, understood, and accepted without judgment. And in that short moment of contact, the hug gives him that. It allows his emotional hunger to be fed, not by grand gestures or complicated words, but by simple, present warmth. Something that says, without saying, "You're not invisible, you matter, you deserve to feel too." There are moments in life where words fall short. A man may hear "I love you" or "I care about you," but depending on where he is emotionally, those words might not fully land. They can feel distant, abstract, or even rehearsed. But when someone hugs him, truly hugs him, with presence and intention, it's different. That physical contact speaks directly to his nervous system, to his subconscious, to the part of him that isn't trying to interpret or analyze. In that moment, he feels it, not hears it, not imagines it, he feels it. And that is often the breakthrough he didn't know he needed. Physical touch, especially a hug, has the power to bypass his logical mind. While men may be conditioned to think, plan, and rationalize, touch brings them back to sensation, to presence. It cuts through mental noise. A hand around his back, a head on his chest, arms pulling him close. It all sends a message that goes deeper than language. That message might say, "I forgive you," or "I believe in you," or "You're not alone." Even if those words are never spoken, the body receives them loud and clear. And for a man who may struggle to talk about his emotions or ask for what he needs, this form of communication becomes sacred. They're emotions that men are taught to suppress or avoid entirely, like vulnerability, grief, affection, or need. Over time, that emotional repression can cause them to go numb or feel disconnected from their own hearts. But a hug can change that, even if only for a short time. It reminds him of what he's capable of feeling. It reconnects him to emotions he's buried or forgotten. And even if he doesn't say anything, you might see his body soften, his breath slow, his shoulders drop. These are all signs that he's allowing himself to be seen, to receive, to be fully present in a moment of quiet connection. Sometimes he's not looking for solutions or explanations, he just wants to know someone is there. That's why a hug can mean more than any perfectly crafted sentence. It doesn't try to fix anything, it just offers a space where he can be. And in that space, healing happens. He might be carrying stress from work, pressure from responsibilities, or pain from past relationships. None of those things disappear with a hug, but they become lighter, more bearable, because now he knows he's not carrying it all alone. And even if he doesn't speak on it, he'll carry the memory of that hug with him, especially on the days when everything feels heavy. That moment of physical touch becomes a quiet reminder that he matters, not for what he does, but simply for who he is. When a woman hugs a man simply because she wants to, not because she needs something from him, it strikes a very different chord. He feels chosen, not for his ability to provide, fix, or solve, but for who he is at his core. In a world that constantly measures men by their performance, by what they can do or how much they can offer, being wanted just for being himself is both rare and deeply moving. That kind of hug doesn't carry any expectations. It doesn't come with pressure or a hidden motive. It's free of obligation, and that makes it feel incredibly pure. It says, "You're enough, just as you are." And for a man who may have been living under the weight of always having to prove his worth, that message can be quietly life-changing. He notices it instantly. It's in the way your arms wrap around him without urgency. It's in the way you lean into him without needing to be held up. He can sense when you're hugging him because you truly want to, not because you're asking for comfort. Not because something's wrong, but because in that moment you're simply drawn to him, and that feeling of being desired without condition lands deeper than you might realize. It touches something many men don't get to feel very often, the feeling of being enough without having to earn it. There's something very grounding about being hugged like that. It silences the internal noise he might carry all day, the doubts, the stress, the constant need to meet expectations. It makes him feel valued, not for what he's done, but for the space he occupies in your life. In that embrace, you're not asking him to be anything else. You're not trying to change him or push him to grow. You're simply choosing him in the moment. And that choice carries enormous emotional weight. It gives him permission to stop trying, to stop performing, and to just be. That experience, even if it only lasts a few seconds, becomes something he holds on to. Men don't often talk about wanting to feel chosen, but it's there beneath the surface. They want to know that their presence matters beyond their roles, that someone sees them and thinks, you, just you. A hug that comes from a place of genuine affection tells him that he's loved without needing to earn it, and that's a kind of love that stays with him. He'll think about it later, in quiet moments, maybe even in moments of doubt. It will echo in his mind as proof that someone saw his heart and decided to embrace it, without conditions, without effort. Just because they could. That type of love, when given freely and without demand, makes a man feel more than wanted. It makes him feel cherished. Many men walk through life with walls around their hearts, emotional barriers built over time to protect themselves from disappointment, rejection, or vulnerability. These walls aren't necessarily visible. They don't always show up in loud ways. Often they appear as emotional distance, silence, or a reluctance to open up. They're the result of past experiences where trust was broken, feelings were invalidated, or softness was met with shame. Society tells men to be strong, and somewhere along the way, many interpreted that as don't feel. Over time, that conditioning becomes so ingrained that even the idea of being vulnerable can feel unsafe or foreign. But every now and then, something bypasses those defenses. And one of the most powerful ways that happens is through a sincere, non-demanding hug. When a woman offers a hug not out of need, but from a place of calm presence and care, it speaks to a man in a way that cuts through his armor. It doesn't demand a response. It doesn't ask for anything. It simply offers warmth and stillness. And that's why it can be so disarming. His walls aren't built to defend against kindness. They're built to defend against pain. So when kindness shows up, not as a grand gesture, but as something simple and genuine, he often doesn't know how to react at first, but internally something begins to shift. Something begins to soften. In that embrace, he may feel an unfamiliar sense of ease. He may start to realize how heavy it is to constantly hold himself together. And for just a moment, he might allow himself to release the grip, to let go of the need to control everything and to just be held. That act, allowing someone to hold him without fear, without pretense, is quietly revolutionary for a man who's spent years relying only on himself. It gives him a glimpse of what it could feel like to live without the weight of his emotional armor. That hug doesn't just touch his body, it reaches the parts of his soul he's tried to protect for so long. And because it feels so unexpected, so safe, it opens a door he may have kept locked without even realizing it. What happens inside him isn't always something he can name. He might not even acknowledge it outwardly, but he'll remember how that hug made him feel. It will stand out in his mind because it was one of the rare moments where he felt emotionally safe enough to lower his guard. And in a world where men often feel they must constantly be in control, that safety becomes sacred. It teaches him that vulnerability doesn't have to mean weakness. It can also mean trust, it can mean connection, it can mean being seen in a way that doesn't leave him exposed but leaves him understood. There's a deep loneliness that exists in men who don't know how to ask for closeness. A real hug, one that is steady, warm, and freely given, can begin to dissolve that loneliness. It doesn't fix everything, but it opens a crack in the armor. It creates space for connection to grow. That one moment of touch can echo longer than you think, not because of how long it lasted, but because of how deeply it reached. When a hug breaks through his walls, it doesn't just feel good, it feels like something he didn't even know he needed. And from that place, something begins to change inside him. Something starts to heal. Men might not always say it, but they feel it. Every time you reach out to hug him, he registers something deeper than the physical act. He tunes into your energy, your intention, and your emotional state. He notices how long you hold on. He feels how tightly you pull him in, or how distracted you might be. To him, a hug isn't just a gesture, it's a message. And he reads that message, whether he admits it or not. The way you embrace him tells him if you're just going through the motions or if you genuinely care. He can feel when you're present with him in that moment, and that feeling is what stays with him long after the hug ends. There's a level of awareness most men have that doesn't always get credited. It's quiet, it's internal, but it's real. He may not analyze it aloud or break it down in conversation, but he processes what that hug meant. If you hug him like he matters, if your touch is slow, sincere, and unrushed, it reaches something far deeper than his body. It lands in his chest, in his memory, in his sense of worth. But if that hug feels obligatory or half-hearted, he'll feel that too. And even if he doesn't mention it, a part of him takes note, because what he wants, often more than he lets on, is to be held with intention, to feel like you meant it. Men are typically taught to be emotionally self-sufficient, to not need anything from anyone, to stand on their own. But the truth is, they still crave emotional signals from the people they care about. They might not chase them, but they definitely receive them. And a hug is one of the clearest, most undeniable signals you can send. That's why the way you hug him matters more than how often you do it. A slow, grounding hug where you simply hold him without rushing it, without speaking, without pulling away too quickly. That speaks volumes. It says, I'm here, with you, for you. And he hears it loud and clear, even in silence. In moments when he's doubting himself, struggling in silence, or trying to hold it all together without complaint, your hug can be the one thing that keeps him grounded. But only if it's real, only if it carries weight. Because he's not looking for a performance, he's looking for proof that he's safe with you, that he can lean on you emotionally without being judged or misunderstood. That kind of reassurance doesn't come from words, it comes from how he feels in your arm. And he knows instantly if it's there or not. If it is, he won't forget it. Some men spend years never receiving genuine, loving touch. So when it finally comes, without condition, without hidden motives, it imprints on them. It tells them something they didn't even realize they needed to hear, that they're allowed to be human too, that they don't always have to be the strong one, that someone else sees them not just for what they do, but for who they are underneath all the roles they've taken on. That's why intention matters. That's why sincerity matters. Because even though he might not show it in his face or talk about it afterward, he absolutely knows when a hug is real. And when it is, it becomes more than just a moment. It becomes a memory, a feeling he carries, and a reason to trust. So what do men really feel when you hug them? More than you probably realize. They may not say it out loud, but that one simple gesture can speak directly to the part of them they rarely show to anyone. A sincere hug can make them feel emotionally safe, quietly chosen, and deeply understood without a single word being spoken. It touches the places where words can't reach, the spaces filled with silent pressure, unspoken fears, and long-hidden vulnerability. When you hug him with real presence and intention, you're not just offering comfort, you're offering connection. You're saying, I see you, you matter, you don't have to carry it all alone. And even if he never says a word about it, trust this, he feels it, he remembers it, and in his own quiet way, he treasures it.